Hello again, everyone. Stanley Orr here, and I'm just giving you another update for IZTDM and what's going on. This will be just a generalized update, nothing too fancy, and I would say that I'm doing the audio only for special, incredible, artistic, awesome reasons. But the fact is, this is just an audio update because I'm lazy and don't want to whip out my video camera, record, put the thumb drive in my computer, import the video files, edit them, and then upload them to YouTube. No, I just want to do an audio thing. It's easier. So, what is on the agenda for today? What do I want to talk about? Okay. First of all, some stuff that's happening right now, what we're working on, what the project's focus right now is. Because we can't count our chickens until after they're hatched. You know, you don't want to rush ahead and dive right into a project not knowing how to do it. So there is a process to filmmaking, there is a process to making an animated movie. And I need to do the first thing first, the second thing second, the third thing third, etc., etc. So right now we're working on voice acting and concept art. Those are the two biggies right now that we're doing. When it comes to voice acting, I'm working with a few of the main characters, kind of getting them introduced to each other via Skype, finding out, just getting people introduced to each other, and that way we can kind of see how they bounce off each other and work as characters. I'm talking to some people about planning this, and I'm talking to a few of the secondary characters as well, getting them to go ahead and get me their lines recorded, because that won't require as much interaction as the main characters. The extras characters won't need as much interactivity. So I went ahead and I'm emailing them back and forth with ideas for their takes, and some of you are getting back with me. If you haven't gotten an email from me, but you are a voice actor and you're just waiting for an email, I ask that you be patient and hang in there, because by the end of this year, I plan to have all the voice acting taken care of. So if you're a voice actor and you still haven't heard back from me, don't worry. You'll hear from me soon, just maybe not right away. Okay, I gotta do only a few things at a time, otherwise I'll lose track of what I'm doing. So that's it. Speaking of voice acting, again, let me think. Four. I think it's four. We have five. We have 5 characters open right now. And they're all canon characters. So if you can do the voice of Professor Membrane or Robo-Dad. That was a stupid Robo-Dad voice. Or, Almighty Tallest Purple! Or Lard Nar! Or even Splink. Those are the 5 characters currently open. So I'll go through that list again without doing my voice impressions. Lard Nar, Splink, Purple, Robo-Dad, and Professor Membrane. And right here on the video screen, there should be an annotation taking you to a video where I overview those voices and what I'm looking for in them, and basically giving you my best impressions so that you know if you can do better than me, then of course I'll give you the part. So that's the idea, and I need as many people to volunteer as possible, because if by the end of this month there isn't anyone who's volunteered, then I'll go ahead and do the voices myself. I would much rather not, but that's just the way it goes. So that takes care of the voice acting. What else do we need to talk about? Concept art! Concept art is great. The point of concept art, for those of you who don't know, is basically so that storyboard artists and animators have a baseline to base their drawings off of. That way, if you have 50 different people animating, they all draw a certain character the same way. You don't have 50 different styles of Zim. Just Zim's drawn the same way all the time. So basically, concept art, that would be like model sheets for characters that feature turnarounds and expressions and all the notes needed to draw them. That would be background design, prop design, all that. When it comes to concept art in general, though, right now, the characters are almost complete when it comes to rough artwork. That would be sketchy-looking things. And in the description, there should be a link to rough artwork and final artwork from the same set of characters. And you should be able to tell the difference. That some characters are very rough and sketchy, and it's just pencils. That'd be rough artwork, and we have everyone assigned for that. We do not need any more rough artwork volunteers. What we do need is people to volunteer to do final artwork. That would mean clean lines, correctly colored, properly filled in. It looks like it was yanked right out of the show, That's what I'm looking for there in final artwork. And again, in the description, you should see a link that's the difference between rough artwork and final artwork. As a good comparison to show you how it turned out. What else? When it comes to backgrounds and props for concept art for them, because they need concept art too. It's not just characters. Backgrounds need concept art. Props need concept art for storyboarders and animators to get the same, to get everything correctly. Props are closer to being ready than backgrounds, but again, I'm not opening those to volunteers yet. Right now, the only thing I'm opening to volunteers is the character list, and that's final artists. People who can draw it, look in the Invader Zim style with crisp, clear lines and good coloring. But when it comes to backgrounds and props, those aren't quite ready yet. Those lists aren't open to volunteers just yet. Props are closer than backgrounds. I just need to review the props and put links to everything that's done and everything that's not done. And I think after that, and after a few more adjustments, I should have the props list open to the public. I will post a journal entry on DeviantArt when that's ready. But when it comes to backgrounds are going to be trickier, because I'm debating whether or not to do black and white backgrounds or actually fully colored backgrounds for concept art. And I think the more I think about it, the more I'm leaning towards fully colored backgrounds and black and white backgrounds and a bunch of other ideas. And that'll take some time and some planning for me to decide on how I want the backgrounds concept arts to be done. And that they're actually called keys, background keys. Fun fact. And it makes it hard to search for anything on Google for examples, because when you type in background keys, it gives you a bunch of desktop wallpaper that has a bunch of keys on it, which is interesting, but not what I'm looking for. So, yeah, hold your horses if you're wanting to work on props and backgrounds for concept art, because that'll be a little ways away. Okay, so that's that. What else? That's everything that we're working on right now. I don't want to overwhelm myself with, what about animation? What about CGI models? What about this? What about that? Listen, take a deep breath. Now let it out. Okay. We're only going to focus on 2 things at a time at most, or whatever's necessary at a time, because if we try to focus on too much at once, or if we try to dive in there and just start animating right now without any storyboards or planning or any of that, this movie will fail. And I'm not saying that to be mean, I'm saying that to be honest. We need to have our steps planned out correctly first if we're going to get anything done correctly. So, I'm not looking for animators, I'm not looking for 3D modelers, I'm not looking for those right now. Right now I'm looking for voice actors for those 5 characters I mentioned. Professor Membrane, Robodad, Lard Nar, Tallest Purple, and... oh, heck, who was it? Professor Membrane, Tallest Purple, Robodad, Lard Nar, and Splink. So I'm just looking for voice actors for those guys, and I'm only looking for concept artists who can do prop design, character design, and background design and make it look like it's taken right from the show, Like crisp, clear lines, good coloring, no pixelation or blurry edges or digital mess-ups, okay? So that's what I'm looking for. Not worried about anything else right now. That being said, if we get to 2016, by January 2016, okay? End of the year, it's time for a new year. Here's where I want us to be. I want the voice acting to be recorded completely. I want the concept art to be done completely. And those 2 things I think we can manage. I also would like to have our storyboards complete, but I don't know if we'll be able to pull that off. I hope we will, now that the summer's coming up. I hope we'll be able to do that. But we might not, and if that's the case, tough call. If we get to January and it turns out that we don't have any storyboards done, we only have voice acting and concept art, then I'll have to make a tough decision. I'll tell you right up front what that would be. That would be either we change the style of the movie to be an animated comic with less animation but more coolly drawn characters and stuff, but it would be an animated comic, or we push the due date even further to 2018. Which I really don't want to do either one of those. That would be bad. So it's important that we stay on schedule. But if there's a schedule slip and it turns out that we're faced with that challenge, those are the 2 options I'll offer to you guys and wait for feedback. I'll be like, hey, do you want to have it released on time but as an animated comic? Or do you want it to be released with full quality, full animation, but it would be it would be in 2018 or even 2019 if it turns out we're that slow with animating. Better late than never, but that would be the dilemma that would be faced if we get to January and we don't have any storyboards or anything yet, if we're off schedule. That's that, though. What else do we need to talk about in this update? The process, the general process for animating, creating an animated film. Hang on, I have some notes here. I have a few books, a few helpful, really awesome reference books that go into detail and talk about animated movies and what goes into them and how that works, all that jazz. And one of them has a handy sheet that talks about specifics on the process for creating an animated film, the pipeline. That's the keyword you want to look up if you're looking for this. The animated pipeline. And actually in the description there should be a link to a very complicated chart explaining the animated pipeline that no one will care about because it's super complicated, but it's there, so you can look at it. But right here I can give you the animation process, the animating part of making an animated movie. First we do a storyboard. Well, actually, no, let me back up. For IZTDM, first we do thumbnails. That would be basically me doing stick figure storyboards, nothing fancy, just to show you what shots and angles, the zooms, pans, motion, all that, just to get an idea for the movement of the shots and the timing. Then we do a test run with the audio and just the thumbnails. Then we do the storyboards, which are based on the thumbnails. And then we do a test run of the storyboards, and we check that. And once it's tweaked and adjusted as needed, then we'd go ahead and line it up to the audio, which would just be the voices, and we'd do a test run with the storyboard. Then we move on to the Lucia reel, or the animatic. I like the word animatic. It's easier to pronounce. And that is a better storyboard with, motion in it and timing and all that. Invader Zim, if you can look up Invader Zim animatic. Look it up on YouTube. There's some for a few different episodes. Hobo 13 has one, I think. And then you go to on to planning, the planning stage, which is the layout department's job. And the layout department is basically a department that I will find, and I'll get us a layout department for IZTDM pulled together. It's basically the people who take the storyboard shots, sit down, and actually draw out the backgrounds, and basically do the key poses for animation. And they basically plan out how each individual shot is with the finalized line art for the backgrounds, and maybe just rough stuff for the characters. That's the layout department, and that's a gross oversimplification of their job, but it's good for this audio update. It's good enough for here. So then we have people who come in, and we're going to have, let me do a demonstration. Hi, I'm Bob, and my job is to do the keyframes for the characters. Basically, that means I'm going to be in charge of just doing important poses. For example, if a guy walks over to a chalkboard and picks up chalk and starts writing on the board, my job would just be to draw the guy in one pose, which is walking, then a second pose, which is picking up the chalk, then a third pose, which would be drawing on the chalkboard. But I wouldn't do any animation other than that, and my animation might be rough depending on how intricate the shot is. And then I would send it on to the next part of the animation department.
Which is me. I'm Larry, and I'm the guy in charge of doing extremes. What are extremes, you may be asking? Extremes are the stuff in between keyframes. Those are the second most important drawings. So first you can tell that Bob went ahead and drew the guy, in his walking, and then he has the bend over to pick up the chalk, and then he has him writing on the board. Well, my job would be to go in there and draw every second important pose. That would be like every time his foot touches the ground. That, every time there's a point of contact with the left foot, right foot, right foot. And then when he bends over to pick up the chalk, all the important poses there. Maybe he starts bending over in the middle of his bend, and when he touches the chalk, and then when he starts coming back up, and then when he's fully standing again. And then I also draw him moving over to the board, not every frame, mind you, just the second most important poses. So like if he twitches or something, I would draw the twitch, and if he goes over and starts writing on the board, I would draw the point of contact, if Bob hasn't already done that. And then I would draw the important strokes of his writing on the board. And then I would pass it along to another guy who does what's called the breakdowns.
And I am the breakdown guy. My job is to go ahead and do the third most important poses.
that sounds really overcomplicated, but think of it like this. We have the guy, drawn by Bob, and he's walking. And then we have Larry drawing each point of contact every time the foot touches the ground. Then my job is to go in there and draw each pose between each pose. Basically, I do when his head goes up, when his head goes down, any head bobbing, anytime he's sort of, if there's any twitching, of course, between those poses. If there's something special that happens, like maybe his shoelace comes untied as he walks, I would draw the little thing like that. Basically, I go in there between Larry's poses and draw in the extremes. And that's what the job of the breakdown is. I don't draw the extremes. That was a misnomer. I draw the breakdowns. That would be in between the extremes. Then I would pass it along to yet another person whose job is to do the in-betweens. Let me think. Hi there! I'm the in-between guy. My job is to go in there between every single frame and fill in all the frames that haven't been drawn yet. All this might just be rough art for now, or it might be line art. We don't know. It depends on each shot and how the layout department says we need to do it. But anyway, my job will be to literally draw in between each frame. Like if the guy's arm is halfway up in one frame, then completely up in another, I would draw it 3/4 of the way up, between each pose. That's the job of the in-betweener. And then, assuming it's all rough art and not completely done, maybe it would be my job to go ahead and do the line art for these frames. But usually that won't happen. Usually each of these guys before me would have gone ahead and drawn the crisp final line art for the character. And then it'd be my job to go in there and do line art for my stuff, the in-between. You guys might be thinking, wow, this is a lot of work. And the answer to that is, yes, it is a lot of work. But it's a lot easier when you're splitting up the task between a bunch of different people. That way one person doesn't have to do 50 different frames. One person can do only a few frames. And then another person can only do a few frames. Then another person can only do a few frames. And by the time you get done, it turns out it's not very difficult in the sense that you don't have to plan it all out yourself. You can just delegate the task to other people. And then we would pass it on to another. I'm not going to spare you anything. I'm going to tell you the full thing right here. Then we would pass it on to another department. That would be the not another department. Then we pass it on to another guy, and this guy's job would be to do everything else, like bits like drapery or clothing that flows or hair fluttering, or if the guy has a fat stomach, we would draw that bouncing. That would be the guy who does the extra stuff. If the guy is a half dragon and he has a tail switching around, I don't know, then you would do that. So that would be all line art, all complete. Okay, so now we have our line art completely drawn from a bunch of different people who handily did everything, and we have the line art completely taken care of. What do we do now? Now we go ahead and send it to another department. This would be the coloring department. So, cut over to the coloring department.
Why, hi there. I am the guy who's going to do the coloring. And here's how I do my stuff. First of all, I go ahead and draw the shadows first. Why? Well, simple, because that way it's easier to see when you're flipping through things where the animation falls, and you can see more clearly the shadows if you're using an onion skin tool in whatever computer program you're using. So anyways, I go ahead and draw the shadows, and I use the same process that these guys did, only the difference is, of course, the line art's already there for me, and all I have to do is the shadows. So I can actually go in there and do everything. But of course, first I would do the keyframes, and then I would do the extremes, and then I would do the breakdowns, and then I would do the in-betweens. So that way it stays consistent and it doesn't get all wobbly or jittery or there's not glitches or anything. And then after I do the shadows, then I go ahead and fill in the normal colors, the way it looks in the light. And that'd actually be easier because all you have to do is use the paint bucket tool, right? I mean, come on. You just click and then boom, it's all done. So then the character's drawn, animated completely, the shadows are taken care of,
And, then then the background's there, and it's all nice, it's pretty, it's already taken care of and drawn, because the background department's already painted, the layout department's already drawn it, the background department's already painted it. So now the shot's complete. Then we just move it on to compositing, and that's the job of let's go to Stanley. Hi there, I'm Stanley Orr, and I'll probably be the guy who does the compositing for this film entirely. That'd be me just putting things together, putting the layers together, making sure that everything exported correctly, tweaking things if there's small glitches here or there, fixing that, adjusting things, blending it basically, and making it look believable. And that would be the complete guide to how we are going to do the animation. Now do you see why I'm not going to go ahead and worry about that right now? Because it would be way too much to worry about. So yeah. That's why we aren't going to worry about animation right now. We're only going to worry about concept art and voice acting. With good reason, So that's that for the process of animation. And I'm not done with the vlog yet. You have to listen to me some more. I'm going to... Next on my agenda to talk about is just stuff I'm going to be doing this week. Stuff, my checklist for this week, what I plan on be doing. I plan on finishing the concept art for the Robotic Substitute. That's something I've been assigned to by myself. So I'll be doing his final concept art. Then a few other characters that I have, I'll be working through them. As I finish one, I'll move on to another. I already have the list of things that I've been assigned to, so I'll be doing that. I'll also be recording myself doing the characters that I've been assigned to. This week I plan on doing that. And again, if I don't get done with this week, I'll keep going till next week. And I'll do, okay, I recorded Larry's voice. Now I'm going to move on to Bob. Now I'm going to move on to Joe Smith. Now I'm going to move on to Abraham Lincoln, or, one character at a time. By the way, half those characters aren't actually in the movie. I just want to clarify. Okay, I was making up names to give an example of what I'd be doing this week. Also, I'm going to be working on thumbnails, revising my thumbnails and making them more easy to understand so that when it's time to storyboard, we'll be prepared. So that my storyboard artists can have something to base it off of, in addition to the model sheets. I'll be also working on background maps. That's literally what it sounds like. When we're in Defective Area 9, for instance, I'll draw a map of Defective Area 9. If we're in Zin's house, I'll do a top-down view, a map of his house, along with a few reference images from the actual show, so that when it's time for people to do concept art for the background, we can get a good, consistent drawing thing. And then also voice acting management. I already told you about that. I'm managing my voice actors. And then the last thing I want to talk about, something really cool. And then I'll stop wasting your time on this forsaken half-hour video. Ugh. A milestone. What's that? Well, I had this idea. Basically, what if, as a reward for IZTDM reaching a certain point, like, hey, look, we got all our concept art done. Yay! We should celebrate. How would we do that? Oh, I don't know. I have a few ideas for unfinished Invader Zim episodes, not like the... Yeah, that'd be it. Like, get a different reward each time we reach a new point. Like, we're done with concept art? Okay, I'll have my voice actors act out the trial, and we'd do an unfinished Zim episode, That'd be cool. Or, okay, now we're done with storyboards completely. Hey, that's fantastic. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have my voice actors act out an episode idea I had. And we'll do that. Or maybe even make it a short animated comic. Or, something like that, just for fun. Or, hey, turns out we're now completely done with music and sound effects. And now it's almost done. Great! I might do a metal version of that Bow Down Before the Power of Santa song from the Horrible Christmas Ever. I don't know. I don't have any specific ideas right now. But that's just the general thing. For every time we reach a new point that we're done with, a major turning point in IZTDM, some sort of reward. That way we keep people excited and interested and engaged in the project. That's it. Just getting all my thoughts out there. Some that are meaningful, some not so much, but all my thoughts out there for you guys to understand what I'm thinking at this point in the project. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll look forward to talking with you later. If you're interested or have any questions about anything at all, of course, just comment on this video or send me an email. My email address is invaderzimtdm@gmail.com. Again, that's invaderzimtdm@gmail.com. Bye-bye!